We are live.
All right. Welcome to another Thursday night of the Guitar Gear Locker. My name is Alex Books, and this is my co-host, Roger Sutherland. And tonight we have Rich Clark from the band Among the Ashes, These Ashes. And welcome to the show tonight, Rich.
Yeah, thanks, guys, so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, from the great white north where it's super cold. Yeah. So you all just we've been trying to set this up. I've been talking about you on the show for a couple months, about having you on the show. We've been trying to set this up for a couple months now. But you all just had an album release, Embers of the Elysium, right?
Yes, sir. It came out on December 6th through Alone Records out in Greece, and then CD through them, and then available on all the streaming platforms and such. And that's our second album.
Right.
A lot of songs, a lot of music, about an hour plus on there.
Right. Now, who is doing most of the writing? Is that you or?
Yeah, I pretty much write everything. I do all the music, all the lyrics, all the vocal melodies, and the arrangements. And then, the guys, when they come in and they do their tracking and everything like that, they'll add bits and pieces of them to help make it put their stamp on it, basically. But yeah, right. I mean, the reason I wanted to do this was to scratch that itch, to get that part of me out. I've done other recording and stuff like that, and I had a Southern rock project and an acoustic project. Oh. But I started music, and my passion for guitar basically came from wanting to do metal. And right. I mean, it's a demanding sort of music, so I'd always kind of put it off. And when COVID hit, that was really when I had the time, and I had got done with one recording project and was like, okay, I'm going to get serious about this now. And I sing, but I don't sing metal as well as right. Other people could. So I got linked up with a singer who could really actually do it, and we made it happen. We released an album, and then got the second one out. It was really important to me to get it out without a huge gap in between albums as well.
Right.
Too. So.
Right. Now, when did you get started as a musician?
When I was, let me go back. So I think when I was 12, I started playing guitar, and I had this shitty Yamaha guitar, and the action on the strings was so high. And it's an excuse. Right. And
no, it's real. Everybody says it every week. It's real.
I quit. And a couple of years went by, and I started, I don't know, I think it was just passion kicked in. And as a listener, passion kicked in, and I got the Ozzy Osbourne Live and Loud album, and I was listening to that, and it's Zakk Wylde. And I was just like, who the hell is playing guitar? It was just so interesting to me, the way he was playing. And it made me want to play, and I picked it back up then, and I learned pretty quick, and like I say, just becoming passionate about it and really just developing a love for the instrument. So yeah, 2017-ish.
Right.
And then I played for a good bit through the end of high school and such, and went off to college, kind of lost interest a little bit. And then when I got done with school, I got back into it quite a bit when I moved. I was in Florida for a couple of years, and I moved back up here, and I just had the time to invest into it and, hone my skills, I guess.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now, did you do lessons, or are you self-taught, play by ear, read music?
I had a little bit of lessons when I first started. And then after that, I just kind of taught myself, just by challenging myself mainly, and, expanding what I was learning at the time. And then honestly, I think that just through writing music, I learned quite a bit,
right.
And no, I don't read music or anything like that, but I can most of the time tell what time signature I'm in or whatever, and, right. I know how to do the harmonies and such like that.
Right.
So, and tempo changes and all that kind of thing. But as far as theory goes, I didn't really, to me, taking the time to learn that, not that it's a bad thing or anything like that. It was just going to distract me from doing what I really wanted to do, which was write music.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I can relate because to me, the creative, being creative is the most important thing. And,
Yeah, man.
To quote, Michael Schenker, he would say, "Play and discover." And it's the same thing for me. I mean, I learned a few things, and then as soon as I figured out to write my own stuff, I just was, went on my own way, and figured out things on my own, and to me that's more exciting. But there's no formula to anything,
right?
When it comes to playing the instrument. But
Yeah,
I think the most important thing is just finding your own voice,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much you can, like I say, I mean, I learned a ton just from writing songs,
Right.
So, and then when you go to actually record it, like you really get your chops up quite a bit too, like I'll go through periods when we're tracking albums, I feel like my chops are really good. If we're not tracking and if we're not playing live or anything like that, like, I don't know, it'll deteriorate a little bit, but when we start going again, it comes back,
Right.
So.
Right. Well, I always ask them, well, I don't always, but I like to know whether people read music and if they went down that road, because I could read when I was younger. I can't anymore. I could read bass and treble clef, and it seemed easy when I was a kid. Now as an adult, I'm doing it now more or less to, so I don't get dementia, maybe, I don't know. But just keep your mind active, kind of thing. And it's hard as shit when you're old to learn to read music. So I wish it was something I would have kept up on, that throughout my younger life. But I went away from guitar and came back to it again years ago. So sort of the same exact thing.
I think music just in general, playing it and writing, it's one of those things. They're like, when you get older and you get away from work and you're not working, you're not challenging your brain, it goes away. But I think music, you're always going to have that sort of stimulation,
right.
That helps you and it keeps you sharp as you get older. So,
right.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, as far as like, what is your process? Because I'm finding the older I get and the more that we do this podcast, the more interested I am in the songwriting process. And so what is your process for songwriting?
Yeah. So there's one really important thing, and I'm not like, I guess I don't have an order for how I do it, but I'll come up with one idea and start to develop it. And I try not to move away from a song until I get it like really, really well fleshed out. Because it's important to me to make sure that if I start something that I finish it.
Right.
And so I get it to where I think it's most of the way done, with both music and lyrics and such. And then I'll put it on the shelf on purpose and come back to it after a while, because, most of the time I'll be like, yeah, that's still pretty cool. But there will be times when it's like, wow, that was stupid. What was I thinking?
Right.
So a lot of times I think it kind of does start with a basic riff idea. And as I go, I'll either continue to like that idea or I'll continue to I'll hone it and make it better.
Right.
And sometimes it'll be completely unrecognizable from the way it started,
Right.
and then just develop it from there. And another like really important thing to me is to have a plan from the beginning, not just kind of like have no guideline or parameters for how I'm approaching something. It's like, I want to write a song about such and such. Like we've got this song Enemy and I on the album, and that's about self-destruction. And, I deliberately wanted to write something like that and have the lyrics reflect that and the music sort of be chaotic, and
Sure.
Basically be a compliment to the lyrics.
Right. So now speaking of that song, because I saw you in another interview talking about that song, what is that like as far as self-destruction what does that relate to? What is your inspiration on that song in particular?
I guess I try to write things so that they can be loosely interpreted for whoever's listening to them, but I guess specifically, and this is not from a personal reason with me, but just like addictions and stuff like that, it would be the main thing, but it could really be anything.
Sure.
But that was specifically like related to someone with addictions. And then, the third verse is supposed to mean like when addictions become so bad that they become infectious to other people.
Right. Yeah, and I always find that I ask that question because for selfish reasons, because of the album I'm writing, Alex. I'm trying to figure out where everybody else draws their inspiration and their power. Mine always seems to like be from a place of anger. I don't know why. I'm not angry, but maybe it's years of working for the government. I don't know.
Really, well, I mean, you can funnel that into this, though.
Yeah.
If maybe you're subconsciously looking for an outlet for it.
Yeah.
And, this is where it comes out. So.
Yeah, my wife says I'm just angry. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't the government. Maybe it's just me. So how? I'm sorry.
About metal. I think the thing about metal is, a lot of the music is focused on negative things, in a sense, but it's actually a very positive, powerful force. Because you're able to express yourself, and there's a lot of people from all different walks of life that come to a show or listen to music to escape that, and
Right.
it gives a lot of people a lot of hope,
Right.
So, and like you said about the lyrics, I mean, it could be about something personal to you, but it's whatever the listener gets out of it, and hey, that's what it is to them, and fine.
Well, and you know what? I like it. You're not the only person that said that. I think Bob said, was it Bob that said that you all leave the interpretation up to the listener? I kind of like that idea. So I always call myself the layman. I'm not in the music industry. So I don't really know. I'm just kind of asking questions that I think everybody else would wonder. And I found it surprising that, and wise that you kind of leave it open-ended. To where it could be left to interpretation to the listener, Yep. It doesn't really alienate it. It could apply to you. It could motivate you. It could inspire you, whatever. I kind of like that with the music. So how's your album doing so far?
I mean, it's pretty good. We're not like this enormous band or anything like that. We're not gonna tour. When we talked the other day, explaining that. I mean, I've got a family here. I got a young child and a wife and everything, and I just think the idea of on tour doesn't super appeal to me.
Right.
So, but I mean, for us, it's been good. It's been mostly positive reaction. I think we talked about the songs and everything like that, and how it is, it doesn't necessarily neatly fit into a specific genre, and that was deliberate, and I knew going into it that it was going to be polarizing, but at the end of the day, I mean, I write this, I hope that people like it and then it resonates with them, but I'm going to write what I like, and really it's an album that I just want to make what I want to hear, and in the songs, the way they're written, it's got this idea of contrast with, you got aggression through the guitars and the drums and the bass, but then you've got these melodic vocals or these melodic passages with the music that are contrasting, and that was important to me. And I also thought like it was a way for us to kind of sonically stand out at least a little bit. It's really hard, and I get it, like for any band, in 2025, it's really hard to come up with something new to stand out, and it's totally fair. Like, what are you going to do? Like, there's this enormous body of recorded music in so many different damn genres. And then you've got metal that's got a million subgenres. And I'm like, I don't even care about that. I just, like I said, I'm interested in a lot of different types of music. And, there's a lot of bands that I like in the metal community. And I'm going to take influences from each one of them and try to do my best to make an album that is, got just really good songs. And that was the focus, to create an album that's just got good songs that are memorable.
Right. Now, what's on? Are you doing? Do you all do gigs up there in the Michigan area?
Yeah, we were doing just like a couple, maybe like 4 or so a year.
Right.
And honestly, I never intended it to be a live thing at all. I always just kind of wanted it to be a studio thing, and I didn't really personally care. I was like totally fine with using technology to insert the pieces that I couldn't get from the band otherwise, just have it be a vocalist and me playing guitar and bass
Right.
And, I really think like a programmed drum sound, like if you're a musician, you can tell like it's programmed, but like, I don't know. I just doesn't bother me, like it's not a big deal to me. But a lot of the other guys convinced me, I think you got to have live drums on it. So, it just kind of, after the first album dropped, it evolved into a live band. And then we decided to do an album together as a band. And that's what Embers of Elysium is.
Right. What is so this one just came out. Is there going to be a subsequent album, or are you going to get back in and start writing again? What's the plan? And I know some of this we talked on the phone, obviously, but everybody didn't hear our conversation.
Yeah, I'm not sure right now. Like everyone's got to kind of figure out where they are. This album was a lot of work. It was really kind of stressful to track. There were a couple, issues that we had with having to rework stuff, and then the mixing process. Oh my God, that was horrible. The first couple that came back, I had originally wanted to just do it all ourselves. And then I was convinced to do otherwise. And I wasn't happy with the initial mixes that came back, and we really had to work on that, and it was expensive. Right. So it took a lot out of me, and I'm sure you can relate, Alex, probably at some point in your career to that. So I think I'm going to do something. I don't know if it's going to be Among These Ashes, but it'll still be the same style of music just because that's what I love. So
are you gonna stick with the same type of music, or you said you dabbled in Southern rock and things like that?
I am working on tracking. I've got just a solo acoustic thing. I play solo acoustic where I sing and I just play guitar at a lot of bars around here. Right. And I've got some original songs that I think are halfway decent, and I'm going to try to track those first because I keep saying I'm going to do it and I keep pushing it off.
Right.
So
I can relate. All kinds of music. I think there's all kinds of music to explore, to express yourself, and I'm predominantly known as metal guy, but there's a lot of other sides there. So I think it's important to do other stuff, because there's a lot to express as a player,
Yeah, and when you expand your mind into those different genres, like, I don't necessarily think you could hear the pop and the outlaw country influences on our album, but they're there in terms of the craftsmanship that goes into some of these things, like especially the vocal lines,
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to create a catchy chorus, basically.
Yeah. Although there's some really, nowadays, if you want to find the killer guitar players, you go to country. Check out Brad Paisley and Keith Urban. Those guys are shredders in the country sense,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was trying to convert Alex. Alex was starting to go there. Like, he's known for being in the death metal genre, but he likes he's a musical encyclopedia, I say. But I was trying to drag him into what was it, Leonard Skinner on Sunday, Smashing Pumpkins. We were all over the place.
Well, when I grew up, metal didn't exist, so
yeah.
Well, did you like the Leonard Skinner though?
What's that?
Did you like the Leonard Skinner?
Oh, I grew up listening to Leonard Skinner.
I love those guys are awesome.
Yeah, my all-time favorite bands. So yeah. Me and Roger are actually playing. What were we doing? Tuesdays Gone. We did the other day. And, did something else. I can't remember.
We were doing all kinds of. It was so much. We got together and jammed. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, because I know when we talked on the phone, he wanted to, like Adam said a couple of weeks ago, like, catch the business. But I know you're a guitar nerd too, right?
Yes, sir.
He said that was the first email.
Well, let's get into that. So
what
type of gear are you using?
Let me start with amps. So I don't know if you can see it. I don't want to mess this up too much. I have a 100-watt dual rack multi-watt behind me, and then I have a EVH 5150 Iconic over there as well.
Okay.
And so the dual rack is my baby, man. That is my favorite amp. I love it so much. And I've owned over the past 7 years, I've gone through so many different amps, just kind of thinking that, you know, they were going to have this different tonal character that was going to be so crazily amazing to me. And then just the idea of like wanting to try something different. I always keep coming back to the dual rec, though. I really just found that one to be the most unique and like the most ballsy American sound you can get. So those are my two amps. I've got two 412s behind me as well. One of them is a Mesa cab. I took out the original V30s that were in there, and Lichtlerm Audio. I don't know if either one of you heard of them.
I actually have, but I don't know where.
I think he's in Germany.
Yes, we've talked about them before, Alex. Somebody else on the show was talking about them.
Yeah, he was a super nice guy, actually.
Gosh.
Messaging him back and forth, and they released a speaker, you know, earlier in 2024, and I got two of those. So that cab has got, you know, two V30s and two Lichtlerm speakers in it, and you know, that's just to give me a different sound. And then I've got the other 412 is custom made by a guy here in Michigan, and it's by Stone Age Custom Cabs. He just retired, and that's got two Mesa voiced V30s in it.
Right.
And then I got another one from him. It's his oversized 212 here, and that's got a DV77 and one of the Jesus speakers in it, which is so that speaker is actually pretty interesting. It's definitely a lot different than anything else I've heard. Everything claims to be like the competition with the vintage 30, and that one is like really, it's got its own unique sound. So
wow, Alex, you have a new co-host. He can talk the geek speak. What about on it? And we'll get, so I don't know if Cheech is watching. There's 4 people watching right now. So Cheech, if you're watching, you're gonna be proud of me because I made another purchase. We'll talk about it later. If Rich will indulge us in going through some of our list of stuff we talk about too, later on. So as far as guitars,
let me see what I got back here. You can kind of see 2 of them right there. So the one, I guess I don't know what said that. The Black Les Paul, that's a Dark Knight. I guess it's basically like it was a series they came out with.
That was a special they did a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what series it is, but it's basically like a Les Paul standard, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
And
they did it. It was what, like 2020, 2018, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, around in there. Yeah, that's a cool guitar.
That's my favorite one. That one's all over Embers of Elysium. And
I saw it.
So I didn't get to ask you, and I apologize that I didn't when we were on the phone. I think you're into Lutherie, right?
Well, I don't call it Lutherie. That's like guitar building, woodworking. Those guys really know what they're doing. I'm a tech, guitar tech, self-proclaimed,
and
there's no certification in it.
He makes his own pickups.
Yeah, I wind pickups. I'm a guitar tech. I have a business. There's a guitar right there. That's my bench.
Oh hell yeah! I definitely want to hear more about that.
Okay, so, yeah. You can interview me when we.
My buddy Joe, he's in a band Finality that's here in Detroit. He's a luthier as well. So anyway, I just took that guitar out to him on Friday, and we did a pickup swap, and he's got 2 of my other ones. So that's
what did you put in it?
Bare Knuckle Ragnaroks, which are
nice.
Misha Mansour ones.
Yeah.
So they sound real nice in there. And then that Explorer is like a 2002, and I got that in a trade. It's beat to shit. And it's like, it looks like it could tell you a million different stories.
Right.
You know? And then it's got, I just put in Fishman Fluences in there.
There you go.
I've always been like, I swore by passive pickups. I still love them, but then, you know, when we started playing a lot and tracking, you know, I started to pay more attention to feel, you know, and like playing with an active pickup, it feels a bit easier to play.
Yeah.
Like with passive, the things I always liked was more for tone, because I felt like you got a lot more of that bite and that grit out of it. So
and then, which Fishmans do you have? Moderns?
I think so. Yeah. Whatever. It's not one of the artists or anything. It's just the generic Fishman Fluence. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me throw a comment up. Trouble has, yep, bare knuckles. Yeah, good pickups, man. Good pickup maker. Yeah.
This was expensive. They were like $500.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Alex, I'm getting ripped off. Well, wait a minute. There's fees to get those over here, right? Those were overseas.
Well,
UK, right? UK, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
UK.
Yeah, so that's built. Yeah, that's some of the price. Like that, if they were made here, they would be cheaper than that. But yeah,
I think so. Motor City Guitar, which is here in Detroit, they are a dealer, and I think I got them from them.
right.
They're still almost $500. So
Yeah.
let me just grab this one for you.
Yeah, that's what I was bitching about a couple of weeks ago. When you have to import things into the country, it just drives the cost of them up.
Nice.
Oh, very nice.
That's a Blood Moon. It's in that same series as the Dark Knight.
Right.
So that one's in C standard. You know, I've got a couple of songs that are in C standard, which is probably like In Flames influence for me mainly.
Right.
So, and then I've got the only other electric guitar I have here right now is a 7-string Eclipse that I got last year.
Right.
So,
what on your in your C tuning? What gauge strings are you using on that?
I think it's 52 to 13.
Okay.
And, with a wound G.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I was curious because we just did one today, so we did it with 11. So it seems like more people are doing it, and it was staying. I'm curious to see if it's going to continue to stay in tune, but 11 should be fine. And see, it was a little flimsy.
It's all, I guess, your preference as a player. I mean, I like a lot of tension.
Yeah.
On mine, I don't like floppy strings at all.
Right.
Everything. So I just feel like if you're doing articulate rhythms or anything like that, you got to have the tension there. Personally.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, well,
I'm sure you have a geeky question. I don't want to hog all the questions here.
So you said you were using the Fishmans, and that's what I use. And I used EMGs for years, and then I was going to switch to predominantly passive pickups because I felt, the EMGs were just super fuzzy. I couldn't get a lot of clarity out of them. I couldn't get a lot of diversity out of them as far as clean tones and things like that. So I came across the Fishmans by accident because, I'm endorsed with the ESPs, and they sent me 2 guitars years ago over to Europe that had the Fishmans already in there, because I was just going to keep these guitars so I don't have to keep traveling back and forth and store some guitars over there. And I plugged in the Fishmans, and I just found that it had, the hotness and, the gain of an EMG, but it had a lot of clarity, like more like a passive pickup. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but Fishman makes a lot of different types of pickups, on the
We're
Fluence.
Fishman salesmen.
Yeah, I converted Roger.
Yeah.
So, but so I'm not sure if you found that out in the studio, but they have a lot more clarity than say EMG. I mean, you can get away with if you're just playing like bar chords and stuff like that. But if you're playing a lot of chords and you want something to come across properly and with the articulation, the Fishmans, at least for me, I found out that they have that clarity that I was looking for, and the power of an active pickup, even though the technology is a bit different than an EMG, I don't know. I mean, is that something, that you realized in the studio? Because, I mean, I still love like a Seymour Duncan JB or something like that. I love the sound of JB.
I haven't used that in this, like I've just maybe just demoing, but I mean, everything you're saying is exactly what I think as well. It's like the perfect blend of the right amount of oomph and gain without being overpowering and too much gain. It gives me the right feel when I'm playing, like I'm not fighting anything.
And it kind of feels like a passive pickup in a sense too. You kind of got to dig in, where you can plug in an EMG to any guitar and it still sounds the same. And at least for me in my ear is that it sounds like the pickup is reacting from the wood too.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah, and nothing against EMGs. I actually think like the EMG James Hetfield set is super solid.
yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly what I say. Yeah.
it's
They're
for
good.
the 5766, which is kind of similar to the headset too.
Yeah.
I
You know,
agree.
and Alex, you can help me with this one, but in listening to your music, not Immolation, but Rich, the music that you all are playing, I would explore the Will Adlers because you all have some very melodic songs, very like I know we use the word articulate songs, but like very clean, which is really good on that neck PAF sounding Will Adler. And then you get really harsh, which the Will Adlers get really harsh in the bridge position. And that's exactly what they're designed. Almost like you had that.
It's kind of like a hybrid. The Will Adlers kind of have that vintage PAF kind of mix in with, a high gain, pickup, or hot, super hot, gainy pickup. So it's kind of got that equilibrium going there.
I had on our first album, I had I really like Les Pauls, and I had this is like probably my third. I don't have it here. It's a Les Paul BFG, which is barely finished guitar, and it's like very stripped down and raw, and it's super articulate. And Bare Knuckle makes a PAF pickup, and it's like really low output. And at that time, I was more into just low output passive pickups, and like if I'll get whatever I need gain wise from the amp. And when I was reamping anyway, so on both of our albums it's all real amps and everything, and when you're hitting it coming out of the interface, you're hitting the front of the amp like super hard, and you don't really need as much gain at all. So I dig the PAF stuff. And then on the BFG that I have right now in the neck position, it's got what the hell the P90s. The those are awesome.
P90s are making a comeback.
Yeah.
I've been saying for about 6 months I was going to wind a set, and I haven't gotten to it. I just did a set of PAFs, hotter PAFs this past week, but I need to do a set of P90s and get them in a guitar. So I miss having those. Yeah, they're making a comeback. I think. Let's see. I'll throw a cursed womb Immolation. I was gonna say a smart remark. Not about that, but about somebody in my life with a cursed womb. But I divorced her. That was a firefighter joke. Sorry. But every week we kind of have a list of things that we talk about. If you want to join in with us, and it's all gear related. So Alex enlightened me just today that Floyd Rose is coming back to America with a Floyd Rose bridge, made in America, North Carolina.
Heck yeah.
North Carolina. Yeah. So what's our thoughts?
Sounds great to me,
Yeah.
That's the production is going to be happening in America. Is that what that is?
Me?
The production.
For the higher end, instead of made in Germany through Schauer, I believe.
Right.
And I think they're still going to work with Germany as well. I think, but
I think they're still going to do both.
Yeah, in the U.S.
Well,
and in the beginning, So
I'm
pretty exciting. I use a lot of fixed bridges, but I use a lot of Floyds too. And it's nothing like a really high end Floyd. Actually, Roger just he's rebuilding one of my old ESPs from the 80s. It's an original USA Floyd, and that thing's been beat to death. So I'm bringing that thing back to life.
Now, Rich, you're probably not a Floyd guy, right?
I've pretty much exclusively fixed bridges, but I mean, like, I think it's cool, and like, so hearing that, I see what ESP is doing. There's just like a market right now and a strong desire to have instruments that are made in America. Like there's something about the craftsmanship, I think, you know, so that's Floyd Rose probably saw that. It's like, let's get in this game somehow.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
and it's interesting. Some of the things that they're doing is they're offering different radiuses on their saddles. You know, you could have a 9.5 or whatever. I saw all the different saddles. I'm sure Floyd Rose does too, but not to that extreme. I don't think. I mean, they had one for every radius. So
yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be good to see them come over here. Although I think everybody, you know, there's gonna be some. There will still be. I want a real German. Like there are German car people, there are German parts people. There's still going to be German Floyd people. Like that's going to be the holy grail, I think. So Rich, I could tell you, I've been in business 5 years now, and when I first started, I said, I never two things. I never want to do electronics. I just want to do setups. No electronics, no Floyd Roses. The first guitar that came in when I opened was a guitar with a Floyd Rose. It was a Randy Rhodes with a Floyd on it. So I had to learn them really quick. Now that's all I see. You know, I almost do some Hail Marys when I see a fixed bridge come in because, you know, they're easy after you do the Floyd Roses nonstop. But yeah, they're an acquired taste. Once you get used to them and get them dialed in, I like them a lot, even though I don't use them that much when I play. The second thing was the electronics, and oh my God, I think that's all I do is wire guitars. The two things I didn't want to do, that's all I do. So I was looking at your guitars. I was like, we're talking about Floyd's, and he's probably like, yeah, I don't do those. I like fixed bridges.
It's fun to talk about though.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, this guitar stuff, it's all fun to talk about.
Definitely easier on the tech. You know, it's whether you're tech working out of a shop or you're a guitar tech on the road. You know, having a fixed bridge is definitely a lot easier to keep in check.
Yeah, and that's honestly all it was for me in my history of playing. You know, at the front end, I had a Jackson V that had a Floyd in it, and I got it used. The guy didn't take very good care of it, and the neck got warped, and there was just no fixing it.
Yeah.
You know, the strings were ridiculously high, and I was just like, you know what, this isn't worth it for me. And I just kind of got used to fixed bridges. It's just so much more low maintenance. And like, honestly, I'm pretty simple across the board. Like my pedal board, I've got a delay pedal through the effects loop and a noise gate, and then an overdrive on the front of the amp. And that's literally all I use. Like I'll get a volume boost from my.
That's actually all you need, really. You know, you don't. You know, like I guess in the early '90s, I really got into the processors and all the crazy effects, and then over the years, I just went back to the basics again, back to a quality tube amp, and you know, a few different things and fingers that can talk, and that's all you need.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question on this?
Sure.
So Alex, I'm curious. Like, are you guys using real amps when you're on tour?
Oh yeah.
What are they?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, we use EVH.
Okay.
We used to use PV. But yeah, I mean, I swear by a tube amplifier. I think this is not, you know, the tone. I mean, there's a lot of, new technology out there, and it can make it easier on you, of course, to be on tour with, say like what is it, Fractal, and, but for me, and even with that thing, I'm the type of person, I just don't have the patience to wrap my head around those things. And you really need a tech that really knows, how those things work. But but for me, it's just, there's nothing like a really quality tube amplifier.
Right.
Power of that, the tone of it. I mean, I still don't think they've duplicated that, it's just obviously, takes a lot of wear and tear. I mean, things change, weather, affects things, and, things breaking down on your tubes, but yeah, I'm just, tube amplifier all the way.
That's all. Yeah, I don't get the chance to talk to touring musicians about that. It's always curious to me. So like, are you using like the 5153 or which EVH are you using?
Yeah, the 5150, the first EVH we're using on tour, but I actually maybe like a year ago I got the Stealth.
Oh yeah,
and I mean, our last record we actually used the Stealth to record the rhythm guitar. So it was actually a combination of the Stealth and a Marshall. Might have been like an 800 or something like that, but you know, mixing them. But yeah, the Stealth is just a whole other. It's got that to quote Spinal Tap, but these go to 11. You know, it's just got that extra little push. You know that, and to me, you know, the EVHs are really simple to dial in. You know, it's like an old Marshall where it's just super simple, and because you know, for me too, it's just like there's too much going on. It's just like I want something super easy and I can dial in and get what I need to get out of it, and that's it. You know,
right?
You said you use what what's it? A rectifier? Is it dual or
on the second album? It's a dual rectifier. On the first album, it's actually a Stealth.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Watt, you know, and you know, that was my first time recording metal. I actually put I think I put 4 mics on my cab. You know, the second time around, I've learned a bunch more. Like, there weren't any phasing issues or anything like that. But on the second album, it was my dual rec. If you know anything about it, so it was just a blend of the red channel and then a blend of the orange channel, and I used more low end in the orange channel, and we made the red channel the dominant tone in just a single 57 on that time, SM57. So
nice.
We're going to talk more about this later about it. So Rich, do you use any effects like going through computers, fractals, helix?
Yeah, I mean, like when if I'm doing the mixing, you know, for guitars on rhythm, I want it to be pretty dry, honestly. So I'll just add compression, and not that much either, because it's already compressed anyway. So that's my rhythm stuff. And my lead tone, you know, I'll change the rhythm tone a little bit so that it doesn't have as much high end in it. And then it's literally just my carbon copy analog delay pedal. So like super simple. And then, you know, compression in the DAW.
Right.
So, and then I guess it depends on what instrument, you know, there's other effects going on, but for guitars, it's pretty damn simple. I don't want to really do a whole lot of EQing post recording. I want to get the sound as good as possible at the source.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. You don't want to throw a lot of shit in there that's just going to take away from tone. You know, and that's the thing about, at least for metal, at least for me, it's just, you know, stripped down. Unless you're playing music like U2 or something like The Edge, where he's just got layers of stuff, you know, going on. But when you're playing like hard rock or the effects away, you know.
I mean, it's also kind of I don't know. I really got into around COVID, like spending time on trying to learn how to dial an amp in and then how to record it. So I really kind of pressure myself to get it right and to make sure that I don't have to really EQ it at the end. You know, like taking out the frequencies that I know don't need to be in there, like too much low end or too. You don't want it to be harsh sounding either. So
right.
Just a good balanced tone that's aggressive.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I had this will lead us into one of the things that we wanted to talk about tonight. So I have a fractal, and I have a small tube amp, orange OR15, but I mostly play through the fractal. And I have the tube amp because I make pickups, so I need some in that one in particular because it gets super clear, and I want to make the pickups sound good clear, so then they'll sound really good when you get them little stanky. So then I went to Alex's house on Saturday. I mean, Monday, the holiday. And my wife said I'm no longer allowed to go play with Alex because I spend money. But I walk in, and so setting to Alex's right, that entire side of the room in my mind is an amp. It's a gigantic 5150 Stealth. So when I left here, I got my guitar, I got my little shop amp here, and we were just going to jam out a little bit and hang for a little while. And I actually threw earplugs in my pocket. I don't know if he knew that, because I said, there's no way that big ass amp is not going to blow us out of that room. And we hooked my guitar to it, and he walked out of the room, and I started playing with it. I was like, oh my God, this is exactly how an amp should sound. And I bought one.
You got a Stealth?
Yeah, just a 50 watt.
Oh, I had a 50 watt. 50 watt's awesome.
Yeah. His is, what is yours? 3.5 feet wide. It's gigantic.
Yeah. Those
50 the 50 watts are amazing. You know, like my friend Bill from Carcass, if you're familiar with Carcass.
Yep, I love Carcass.
Bill uses the 50 watt, you know, EVHs. And, you know, if you're familiar with Carcass, like he's just got a ridiculous monster tone, and that's just straight in, and there ain't nothing going on. He's got an old early 60s Gibson and you know, passive pickup straight into that thing, and it's just ridiculous. And I think they have their own unique sound too, you know, compared to the 100 watts.
I liked him because he's always playing the Les Pauls, you know.
He uses now he's using these old they're melody makers, I think. So like 62 or 63s. And he switched to them live because the Les Paul Customs is too heavy, you know. Feel your back. You playing hour and a half, 2 hours every night, and just nerve damage and all that shit. It's just, you know, sitting down in the studio, sure, you know, but something lighter, you know. But the 50 watt are great.
50 watt's awesome. You're not kidding though. The 100 watt is a huge amp because, like, I mean, just the footprint that it takes up is massive. Like compared to watts.
I think it's so deceiving the way he had it dialed in. We were in that room together, and it wasn't overpowering. I'm sure it can get loud as hell, but it was it sounded great. And you know, that was the day that the light bulb went off, and I was like, oh my God, my amps are shit. I think there's still a place for the orange, you know, for winding pickups and stuff, but and you know, my wife left and went on an errand yesterday. I was like, all right, so let me crank this thing up, turn up the gain, do this, do that. And it was nowhere, not even in the same city, town that EVH is in.
I got a question for you, Rich, is, you know, you're talking about different styles of music and playing that. And this could be, you know, what guys like us excuse to have different guitars and multiple guitars and make an excuse to our wives to have that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have different types of amps, different types of guitars, because you write differently, you have a different instrument and tone, you know, especially if you're doing different things or even in the studio, you know, playing a different guitar for certain clean tones or just to overlay certain things, you know, and I think it adds a lot more, you know, broadens the whole thing for, you know, as a musician, as far as writing in the studio. So is that important to you to have, you know, a couple different guitars for different reasons? And, you know, do you find that when you pick up a different guitar that you may write differently, you know, compared to one of the other instruments?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like, I use that all the time. Like, this one's set up like this, you know, so I can do this on it. And the people that don't understand are like, yeah, okay, whatever, you know. But I mean, like with the songs that are in C standard, you know, and if you listen to, I guess, both of our albums, like there's a very intentional flow to the way the songs are ordered, you know, like from one to the end. And, you know, in the middle of Embers of Elysium, we've got a song in C standard, you know, and it's not the same tempo. It's got a bunch of different tempos in it, but it's not the same tempo as the one before it or the one after it. It's not even the same feel. So yeah, you know, having different your instrument set up differently, or having a different amp that brings a different tone of character, I think is great to just have a sonic palette that you can put on display that's not the same for your entire album. It's like, okay, these guys are not a one-trick pony type of thing, you know. So I think that's incredibly important, you know. So
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
there a lot of the bands, you know, like I guess Amon Amarth would be a really good example. Those guys put out this pretty much the same album every time, but it's fucking badass, you know, no matter what they do, you know. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just like to have a little sonic versatility in our songs while still always staying true to our identity, you know.
Yeah.
So
it depends on what you're going for too. You know, like if you're like you said that Amon Amarth, or say you're AC/DC, or you know, I think Angus has been using some of the same guitars since 1973. You know, but he's not trying to change what he's doing. You know, it's just like, you know, you hear a new AC/DC record, you know what you're going to get. You know? So
that's totally fine,
and that's okay. You know, like I said, it depends on what you're going for. You know?
Yeah, I mean, so much of this comes down to what your personal preferences are, you know, and then your willingness to like stick to your, I guess your own principles, no matter, like, if you're a metal musician, you know, whatever you put out there, somebody's going to criticize it, you know, and you got to be able to just be like, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
That's important. Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, you know, you're writing music for yourself. You want to. You're writing the music that you're not hearing that you want to hear, and if somebody else likes it, then that's just an added bonus. But that shouldn't be the driving force.
That's the positive. You write it for yourself. If everybody likes it, that's a positive in it. Yeah. Survivor Metal Man said it seems a 50-watt amp just drives the tubes a tad more than the 100-watt.
Yeah, that could be possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're going to see on Saturday.
Have you ever tried using attenuators?
Who, me or Alex?
I guess either one. Well, I mean, so I always run my amp through an attenuator, just like the 2-notes captor. That's all I use it for. Is it drops the amp 20 dBs, so you can crank it, and it won't be louder than shit, and you still get a cranked up tone. You know, so I'm all the time in my studio here. It's going through an attenuator. Like if we're practicing, I don't use it, but otherwise, you know, everything I do is through that, and you'll get an awesome crank tone. It doesn't have to be louder than shit.
Yeah,
you know? So
well, and that's what surprised me the other day. Yours wasn't. I don't think yours was loud the other day.
No,
I mean, I wasn't my hearing, but
I wasn't even on one. You know?
I know, yeah, but it sounded good. Is my point. So yeah, but maybe that's an idea.
But I think, you know, when you do crank those things, it takes it on a whole other.
Oh, it does.
Oh yeah,
it's, you know, like Eddie Van Halen was just saying, like, these amps are made to turn them up to 10.
Yeah.
You know? And, yeah, I get that. So.
Yep. Let's see. I was trying to. All right, I'm caught up over there. What is it? Okay, so our next is the EVH Custom Shop guitar. So I have to hit it. Let me see how this screen share goes here with 3 of us. 3 heads. Wait a minute. Oh, Cheech is here. Wait a minute. We'll get his first. Did Rich say Zakk Wylde's style inspired him to pick up the guitar? Sorry, I got here late.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was really the Ozzy Live and Loud album that did it for me when I was like 16 or 17 years old. I just heard him playing guitar and I just thought it sounded absolutely monstrous, you know, and it was just so inspiring to me. And, you know, I expanded it from there. So,
yeah, guy's got a monster tone, that's for sure.
And, you know, I think it's cool that he's playing in Pantera, and I don't care if some, it's totally fine. You know, whatever position somebody takes on that, you know, I think it's cool to hear those songs again, and it was pretty cool to me to see.
Oh yeah, I mean, so, probably a lot of kids didn't get to see that, you know.
Yeah, right.
It's just their chance at the closest thing to seeing that band, you know. So, and I know they were buddies, so you know, it makes sense for them.
Yeah.
To ask to fill in.
Yep. All right, sharing up now. That sucks. I hate. Wait a minute. I need to put it on a different screen so I can still see things here. So this is, sorry, just a little housekeeping here. I have to look at two screens to get this done. So what's our thoughts on EVH introducing their custom shop line? Could you imagine how much that's going to be?
The black one looks cool.
Oh yeah,
that neck on the purple one, I'm not sure. It looks like it's like
it's a roasted maple, right?
Neck or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I played those, EVH, the USA ones. I played the lower end models, so they're great guitars. It's just, I don't know. It's not like super in my comfort zone, as far as the feel of them. And as Roger knows, Eddie Van Halen's my ultimate guitar player since I was a kid, But yeah, I don't know. What's your thoughts, Rich?
I just hate that shape. That's all. It's just so off-putting to me. I just don't like it.
Yeah. I get it. As far as the tone, like it's kind of like a combination of a Super Strat meets a Les Paul. It's got that body to get that fatter tone like a Les Paul. I get it. It's just the look that's never.
Yeah. Survivor Metal Man says he's a pointy guitar. I could. So here's what I've just observations. Let me love Jackson personally. Yep, we all do. Except for I found out recently. I didn't know this was a thing. So nobody likes that headstock. That the Jackson Solo that I have. That's one. I have one for sale now. It's been for sale forever. And I found out somebody said it's because it has that headstock. I said, what are you talking about? They said they related it to something. They said it looks like a something. I forget what it was. So I've noticed since then, whenever I see somebody advertise a Jackson on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, they never include the picture of the headstock. I was like, it's a thing.
Is it the reverse?
I did not know that there was a undesirable headstock on a Jackson, but it's a thing. So my observations on these. So I think you can take the before I work up to the custom shop because I don't know. So you can get into. I've seen people get into a Wolfgang, like a Wolfgang standard, and do a bunch of FU tones in them, and the pickup mounting system through FU tone. And have a really killer guitar that plays well, stays in tune, and all that kind of stuff. Then the next step up is, this is Alex. You know this. I have one regular customer that comes in here, and he bought a made in USA EVH Wolfgang, and he returned it, and he got a special, and he likes the special better. And the special is just a little bit like it has binding on it. It's a little bit of a step up. He brought it over, and we did a block in that trem stop and that brass pickup mounting system, and it was a really good playing guitar. The USA felt like the special to me. They're just what, $5,000?
Well, that's the thing. You get a custom shop guitar, and then you get the mass produced instrument. That's an import. It's just whatever a better playing, So not always the money.
I mean, you can go down. I mean, it's just like Kiesel or anywhere else, or Fender. I mean, you just go down here and pick what you want, but it's just going to be a more personalized version of the USA, I think. And I think the special, like I said, the standards are good. The specials are really good. And they're probably as good as the USA's. Let me throw a couple more comments so I don't get behind. This is on my to Roger's awakening to the ugly headstock. The traditional Jackson headstock is the only headstock they should use. I now agree. I have been educated. I didn't always know that, but I have those too. Let's see. guitar prices. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a couple minutes. Because there was a video and an article that came out this week about that.
Yeah, I mean amp prices too. Some of these reissues are insane.
I can so I had a really it would the experience that I just had with the amp that I just bought, and it was literally last night and today. It took a while. I there were a lot of discounts going on because it was President's Day weekend. I just missed out. I forgot I had gotten a 20% off Musician's Friend, so I just missed out on that by 2 days. But there was still like a 15%, so there were good deals. But they're just for a 212 cabinet and the EVH, it was like right under $2,000. That's still a butt ton of money, you know, for what it is and where they used to be. But American Musical Supply, I dealt with Eric there. He was really good to deal with. You know, gave me he honored the discount. He was a lot easier to deal with than the other big box store. I'll just say that, the one that we may talk about every week. It's just, I mean, the prices are insane. Let me throw another one. Yeah, guitar prices are ridiculous. The latest Mason 90 dual rectifier reissue is pricey. Yeah, everything's pricey. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. Go ahead. You can.
I mean, like, there's a guy in Michigan, actually, the Tone Wars guy, and he's a metal guy. He was doing an analysis on that Mark II C Plus that's coming out, and it's like $100 cheaper than the John Petrucci one, but the amount of features you get with the John Petrucci, it's basically the same amp in terms of tonal character, but you get a ton more features. It's almost like this emotional thing just to have the Mark II C Plus, you know.
Right.
So
and I saw something, somebody was comparing the new Marshall that they came out with, the JCM, the new old, and they were comparing one of those to the Jubilee, and they were just comparing the specs and the prices, and the price dropped up astronomically, just in a couple years. It's nuts. And they're all saying the same thing. And like I said, we'll talk about that here in a couple minutes with guitars.
Is that the modded 800?
The modded, yeah. They were doing a comparison between those two. It's just, they keep blaming it on supply chain and this and that. And I think at this point, we should just all grab our ankles because we're getting screwed.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. They can blame whatever. I heard it the whole time I was in the fire department, supply chain and whatever. And I mean, you couldn't even build a damn fire truck for a while. So I think it's just an excuse for nobody really wants to work anymore, my opinion.
Most of my gear acquisition is through trades, honestly, because I could save quite a bit. And the used market is usually pretty good as long as you're careful and make sure you don't get scammed. I had a guy try to scam me on a Les Paul. It ended up being a Gibson, and my buddy the luthier caught it, and I was able to get in touch with him and get him to correct it, thankfully. So I'm super careful about everything now, but I mean, it's significant savings too.
Yeah.
I like used guitars. I think it's like, for me as a player, it takes a while to really wear a guitar in, to really get that thing going and feel the neck, and I like the feel of a guitar that's been played. Because when I do get a new guitar, of course, it's amazing to get a new guitar. It's like a kid in a candy store. It's like, you get that the smell of that and all that kind of nerdy stuff, because I'm a guitar nerd. But it takes a while for you to really kind of like play that thing and dig in. So I do like some older guitars that have been played. Some of my favorite guitars that I own, I bought used, and there's a magic to that too.
Well, so this is me saying this secondhand. I don't actually know what the hell I'm talking about with this, but so my buddy's like, a lot of the guitars they're making now are from younger pieces of wood, you know, so it takes a little while for that wood to, you know, I guess form so that the action is where you want it to be and is stable.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. You know, all the water, you know, it's in the wood and all that kind of stuff to dry out, and I think it's a real thing, you know. But I think, you know, today they're making some of the best guitars that's ever been made.
definitely.
Obviously the wood, you know, it's just like, even like Bill from Carcass, like I remember me and him were talking one night, and he was saying that, you know, he didn't get the vintage market at first. He was just like, I just, you know, what is this, you know, vintage guitars, whatever, until he played a couple, and then he was like, I get it, you know, you know, how old that wood was already when they built those guitars back then,
Right.
and you know how that matters. But at the same time, you could get a vintage guitar that's goes for shit loads of money, and it's an absolute piece of garbage too. So you know.
Well, and I think that other than the new guitar I just got because we did this show and I just did it on a whim, I would rather buy from the used market for when it's cheaper nowadays. And I would have done it with this amp, but I gotta tell you, like, people when they're selling, my observation again, when they're selling guitars, you can tell people that sell all the time and the people that are new because they think they have a brick of gold. The newer people, like, you know, don't call me, don't do this, don't blah, 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 blah. It's like, you have a pretty low end guitar, dude. You're only going to get so much for it. But I found that amp people, when they're selling amps, that I dealt with a few wing nuts, and I finally said, you know what? All the sales that were within 100 miles of me, they were like $300 less, and they were all wing nuts. So I was like, you know what? I'd rather pay $300 and deal with the bullshit from them. I was looking to go used with the amp though, but you know, I'd rather go used. I think it's a better value. I'd rather go with older equipment, maybe not necessarily with tube amps, but definitely would rather go used because I know the depreciation. But they were the amp was just a whole different world. It was like, you know, I don't know what they thought they had, but they when you're close to what you can get a new one for at a discount, it's like, I'll just get a new one, whatever.
Yeah, that's totally true. I try to do, if I have enough gear laying around that I don't have this attachment to, I mostly try to do it through trades and maybe like a little bit of money if I need to. So I've got pretty damn good. Most of my stuff has been through trades here. So
I actually so I asked the one person, I said, you know, I hate asking this question because I know nobody else has asked it, but are you interested in trades or trades plus cash or multiple blah, 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 went through the whole thing, and he actually kind of laughed. But you know, at the end of the day, he just wanted too much, and it's like when
the trade thing's kind of cool because me and my guitar player in one of my other bands, you know, me and him been trading guitars and equipment since the 80s, you know, like I'll tell you what, you know, like I remember there was a guitar I got from him some years back. It's actually an older ESP, and he just got the guitar. He had it for like a couple of weeks, and so I go over to his place and I'm picking up, and I'm just like, man, I love this thing. Wow, this thing is, you know. And it was, you know, it was pretty beat up a bit, you know, and man, it just had character. Tone.
Right.
I was like, I got to get this guitar, you know. And he's like, I'll tell you what, I'll trade you. And then I was like, for what? And I knew what he wanted, you know. And it was one of my older Charvel USA Strats, Super Strats, and I was like, oh man. And then I was just like, all right, you know. But it stays in the family, so me and him have been back and forth. Which is kind of fun, you know. It's just like, all right, you know, but it's, you know, it's always there. So you know, there may be one day where I'm like, hey, what is it going to take for me to get that guitar back, you know?
Well, yeah, it's also cool that you gave it to somebody you know and you're close to, and it's not like some stranger or anything like that, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I just Alex, you know this, I just had a it wasn't a trade, but it was a, what did I call it, righting the wrong. Like I got rid of my custom shop. I got another one because it was wrong to get rid of it. But I just had another one of those a few years ago. I bought a striped 5150 from a guy up in Northern Virginia, and he found out I was a tech and I had my shop, so he brought a couple of guitars down. And after I got the 5150, and he said he didn't like it, I did a setup, I leveled the frets, and it was practically new when I got it. Put a block on it and a trim stop, and did some upgrades to it. And he brought a guitar in that he had just bought and had me do a setup on it. And he played his old guitar. He goes, "Oh my God, if I knew it played like this, I wouldn't have gotten rid of it." So, 2-3 years later, maybe even 4 years later, I threw it up on Facebook. He reaches out and he goes, "Hey, I'm the guy that sold it to you. I want to buy it back." And he just got it back this past weekend. So it's kind of cool when that happens too.
Yeah.
It's like, I should have never gotten rid of it. I want it back.
Yeah, I just did that recently. I had those bare knuckle pickups. I had those in my James Hetfield snake bite. I traded that thing away and I wanted to get it back. And I had this Mesa. It's a dual caliber. It's an amp from the 90s. And I like it. It's awesome. It needs to have an overdrive in front of it to really get what I want it to sound like. So I got the snake bite bat and I traded that away.
Yeah.
But I missed the amp a little bit.
Yeah, right. Survivor Man has another one. Let me get this. 99. He bought a USA for $13.50 for the price they are now. I could have bought 3 or 4. That's a fact. Those things have really gone up. Nice guitars. All right. So the next is one that let me share the screen again. Let me go through my 55 steps. StreamYard needs to fix this, so I'll stop bitching about it. I'll probably still bitch about something else, but this.
You guys have people asking questions. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, you know what? It took us a while to get to the live thing, but I think we both actually kind of like it. It's more interactive. And there's regulars like Survivor Metal Man's here pretty much every week, and Cheech is here every week. So it's kind of cool. You can kind of talk back, and they can hear me say dumb stories about goofy guitars, and then Alex says really wise things. I say all the dumb stuff. So this is like Alex isn't a big acoustic guy. I am, and I think I'm not a big acoustic guy, but I like acoustic guitars, and I have a few. And I built one with an actual luthier. So this is the Murphy Lab, the Gibson Murphy Lab heavy aged acoustic. So they're now relicing acoustic guitars at the Murphy Lab. I
don't know if they can if Gibson can get away with it. I can imagine what the prices are on that. They'll keep doing with it.
I can't even imagine.
I mean, an aged acoustic.
Why? I don't get it.
Does it improve the feel of the neck? I don't
know. I think at this point, some of these companies are trying to come up with every gimmick they can come up with to sell a new, different guitar.
Well, I mean, Gibson, and we bag on Gibson sometimes on this show, but I mean, I've owned Gibsons and I love Gibson, of course, but they charge outrageous prices for making the same guitar that they've been making for how long. And as far as some of the newer ones are just not as good. There's a lot of issues, some of them are amazing. Roger's got a killer it's a custom shop, the one you got at Les Paul, I think. Amazing guitar.
Yeah, I mean, I like Gibson a lot too, but I don't think there's anything wrong with calling them out for a company like that has got a lot of efficiency in their manufacturing process too. They can make things probably a lot cheaper than what they sell them for. And some of that crap like this, I don't really know how much this makes sense. It'll probably end up being a limited run, but honestly, I had a Gibson acoustic. I feel like those guys fly under the radar quite a bit in the acoustic guitar world because that was an awesome guitar.
Really?
The only reason I got rid of it was because and I'll freely admit this was me being stupid. I over humidified that thing, and when I was playing live, the tuning stability was just atrocious. But I also when I play an acoustic live, it's 3 1-hour sets, and I strum pretty hard, so part of it's my fault too, but I really liked the sound of that acoustic. I mean, it was just really balanced and articulate, especially with like bronze wound strings.
Yeah.
So, and then like I've got 2 Taylors behind me. One of them's a super nice guitar.
Yeah.
And I thought the Gibson was better. It was a little bit cheaper too.
Yeah.
It just, to me, it resonated better with me.
I have, and I don't know why I don't have a Gibson acoustic. Never have really gravitated towards those. I have a Taylor 414 CE, and I have a kind of a mid-grade Martin that I play a lot. That's kind of my recliner chair grabber, like right next to my recliner chair. And I like that one, and it's nothing expensive. I think it may be now. When I bought it was like $1,200. Now it's probably $15,000. I don't know. No, it's not. It's actually a very pretty moderately priced one. But I never really. I like those two, and they both have 2 distinct, different feels and sounds. You get the deeper sound, more like the bluegrass deep sound with the Martin, and then more that higher range with the Taylor. More resonant. But then I built one that sounds really good also. I built that with a local luthier. I have a Breedlove that's pretty good too. I have a 12-string Breedlove. But I can't. I have one Relic'd guitar, and it wouldn't be Relic'd if I could control that, but that's the only way they make them. This makes zero, and I think a Curse Womb, I'll come back to you, but let me get these since they're kind of relevant. He hates the whole Relic thing, thinks it's dumb, and a lot of guitars. I do too. I don't know. You know what? So the one on my custom shop Strat, I mean, it's like, it's ugly if you're up on it. You can see the checking. They did it tastefully, but if you're 5 feet away from it, you can't tell. I do like the way the neck is aged on it, though. I do like the feel of that. I don't necessarily like the
warm neck in the back. It definitely.
Yeah, they did a good job on that. Personally, though, I would not have gotten it. If they had a shiny white one, I would have gotten that and just done it, over time. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting and stupid all at the same time. Yeah. And you know what? So we have to put up our disclaimer every week. Like, we bag on Gibson a lot, like you said, but we actually both like Gibson. We just want them. Well, this is a dumbass idea, but they'll make a lot of money on it.
Iconic guitars. I mean, some of the best guitars ever made, are Gibsons. And, some of my old Gibsons, like my old SG, it's just one of the best playing guitars and most, consistent too. Like,
right.
Staying in tune, but I did notice the quality go down over the years.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have much experience with some of the brand new ones, and I understand that they're saying they're trying to bring it back to good quality control, good and all that stuff too. But I still hear a lot of bad stuff too. I mean, you can get it could be any guitar company too. You can get somebody will say, oh, they're so consistent, and then you get one that's just that gets through, that seeps through, and it's just a pile of shit, So.
Well, and I think there's 2 different schools of thought too. So, and you've seen both of mine. So I have a Relic'd that looks like somebody dragged it down a gravel road, and then that's from Fender. But then I had the Gibson R0, and I won't call that Relic'd. It's aged. And the difference is, like, the binding on that guitar, they kind of. And hell, for all I know, I got it from somebody. It's a 2005. Maybe it did it all on its own. But on the binding, you can see where the stain has bled through the binding, and it looks really cool. It also has a beautiful fretboard. So that's just a gorgeous guitar. I was playing that earlier, actually. That's a great playing guitar.
I mean, in the end of the day, it's just preference,
Yeah.
What you like and what somebody else doesn't like. I mean, I like the look of some of the Relic guitars.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, having those little inconsistencies and, or just wear and tear of the guitar gives it a little bit of character too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those Gibson acoustics almost look like they're going for like what Chris Stapleton's acoustics look like, because like his Relic, like they Relic'd it up on the top of the sound hole there. I mean, you got to really kind of be doing like this to make that happen. Like,
yeah, and you normally see that on, and I know there's a pick guard there, but you see them eating away on the bottom. And I guess the one, actually, they do have it a little bit back by the bridge.
This is what mine look like.
Oh, nice. Oh,
wait a minute. Is that a 414 CE?
It is a 712 CE.
Oh, 712.
Yeah,
I have a Taylor that same color.
The body starts at the 12th fret actually, and then you got the slotted headstock.
Oh, slotted headstock.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, mine same staining color, but different headstock. That's a nice guitar.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so I don't know if I don't know how. I mean, maybe I would be different. Like Willie Nelson's, if they did a replica of that, that's kind of gnarly, cool, So maybe. And if they could make it sound like Willie Nelson's, like those,
the trigger or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that there's a need. And you know what? Some of it is like dealing with a lot of guitar players, and especially at the local level. I hear more people saying, how do I get this ding, scratch, whatever out of my acoustic? Because they don't want them. That I don't know many people, and I'm sure Gibson didn't do this for no reason. I'm sure they did some study and found out somebody wanted a Relic'd acoustic guitar.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
So it's just very interesting. I ran across that. My story is like during the week, I'm always running across different articles in my feed, and if I see something that looks interesting or dumb, I put it on my little list over here of things to talk about. We have I was waiting for Alex to come back to put this up here. What are your thoughts on guitar manufacturers putting Fishman pickups and chrome pickups in a lot of guitars?
Well, it depends on how it works with the color scheme of the guitar, the hardware. Is that what it means as far as like the chrome? Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. Whatever.
Chrome, I mean, are we talking about like a regular chrome passive pickup in a Fishman or a chrome Fishman? I guess I'm a little.
Probably the covers, maybe.
I don't know that they make. Well, I think they do. Yeah, chrome-ish.
The Ken Susi model, I think, had chrome ones because I had that one for a little while.
Ken does. Yeah, that's right.
Well, and I know that they kind of run the gamut, because one of the Will Adler sets has like they're aged. They're kind of Relic'd. They have the string demarcation on it.
And like you mentioned, Ken's guitar, it works with that. I think it's like kind of like a silverish finish or something on his guitar.
Yeah, pretty sure it's a guard. Yeah. So I mean, I dig them. We were talking about the Fishmans earlier. I think they're awesome tech. Yeah. That's another. Yeah. It's cool to have guitars with passive pickups, and it's cool to have some with actives.
Yeah.
So,
and I think and we talk about Fishman a lot on this channel, and I like. So me personally, I like their what are they? The classics, Alex, that we put in your one. That they're like PAF. They sound good.
I love the classics. So if you're, Rick, if you're into playing like some Southern rock stuff too, like they have the Fishman classics, which are just amazing. I mean, you can play metal with it, but it's a pretty clean pickup. But man,
it's like a traditional PAF.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that earlier about the other pickups they make, I actually have one of their acoustic guitar pickups. It's the magnet and the microphone, and you can blend them together. So
yeah. That's what they started with for acoustics, and then like speaking of Ken, like Ken is the guy that kind of put on the map for the metal players with Fishman.
Yeah.
But the acoustics.
But they're
good too.
I mean, the acoustics, well, they've been known forever in the acoustics. As a matter of fact, that this guitar on the bench back behind me, we're looking at a new Fishman pickup for that. That would be an upgrade to the sound. But we think of them as the metal and the hard rock, but man, they have that Telecaster and the P90 set, the Greg Cox set. I mean, we've talked about the Telecaster set I installed in that Telecaster. When you push that button, it sounded like two completely different guitars. And I think that's where they're eating everybody else's lunch, is they have those different voicings. That's tough to beat, you know?
Yeah, that makes it like so much more interesting because you can go from active to passive voice on it, you know, right. and all kinds of, you know, I haven't even really broken the surface on everything those things can do. I just really go back and forth between active and passive, but it's awesome.
It comes in handy in the studio too, you know. I can't say enough good things about
I'm making sure. I know we kind of skipped around a little bit. I'm making sure that we answered the question, A Cursed Womb. I know we talk a lot about Fishmans. We all love Fishmans. Let's see, and let's see, we have yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Just Relic yourself. Yeah, and I was also looking up. Yeah, I was just making sure we covered the other one with the Fishmans. And you know what? You know, when you're talking pickup covers, chrome, and you know, I just did one. I just did a custom set for a customer, and he liked the pickups that were in his guitar. They were gold and they were aged. They looked like they were probably 20 or more years old. And he wanted those that he had aged, or that somebody had aged naturally, on the new pickup. So, you know, to each his own. Everybody has their own preference what they like on pickups. I relic or age pickups, you know, using ferric acid, and, you know, put the little demarcation lines in there, and, you know, chew them up a little bit. I've done that.
I love that. I'm gonna,
you know, the interesting thing is my supplier, I don't necessarily like chrome, because chrome's not as versatile when you're trying to age it. Nickel is easier to age. But you can pay a price for chrome, a different price for nickel, and then if it's aged with like no finish on it, it's 3 times the price, you know, from a supplier. So it's more expensive to make them look old. So but a lot of people, I mean, to each his own. Everybody, I know I have my own preference and stuff, and that's why, you know, with my Les Paul, if I could get a nickel brass stop tail and saddles for that, I would do it, because then I could age it. But if it's chrome, then I have this big shiny chrome bridge on a 2005 guitar. It's just going to look like a shiny beacon on it. So I kind of wanted to match. So we all have our things, you know.
Yep.
I'm going to save our branding for last. Floyd Rose. So there was a podcaster and then an article that was talking about, we talk about the price of guitars, but in this, and I got Alex's dander up a little bit earlier about this, because you know, there's more than one person that has said, like, you almost don't see ESPs anymore. And even so, Phil McKnight mentioned this, not that you don't see ESPs, but he would like to see them, like, just go to ESP. Let's stop calling them LTDs and E2s and just call everything ESPs, sort of like PRS is doing. You have the Paul Reed Smith, you have the CE, you have the SE, but they're all PRS guitars. And his point was, let's just call them all ESPs and have some sort of way to categorize them into the different levels of what they are, instead of having 2 completely different, you know, LTD ESPs, which is valid. But this person that in the article I read earlier was talking about crazy prices due to the supply chain difficulties. But, you know, this person contended that you almost don't see ESPs anymore. It's almost like there's just LTDs. Everybody's playing them. That's what you see for sale. And at this point, Alex will enter. Go get him, Alex.
Well, I mean, LTD is obviously is the biggest selling guitars because they're the lower end models, but they're amazing guitars. And some more expensive ones like out there that you around 2,000. Even I think there might have been maybe one or two that's around 2,200, something like that. But they're pretty high end. I mean, I can compare some of my LTDs to my ESP made in Japan guitars that are equally as good. But yeah, I mean, I think what you asked earlier, Roger, was that it's just going to be LTD, which is not true. I mean, they actually just revamped the ESP USA shop.
Yeah.
So you can go on there now. For a couple of years, it was just they had a couple models just for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And they're back into where you can pick the colors, you can pick the pickups, the fretboard, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And E2s haven't been produced in 2 years. And from my understanding, it's due to COVID, and they just got so far behind. Now, obviously, they don't make as many E2s as an LTD guitar because the E2s are just, so everybody knows, I've seen a lot of comments on the internet about, oh, E2 is not ESP. It is. They just changed the name. E2 is ESP standard guitar.
Right.
It's still the same guitar.
Right.
But from what I understand, in the last 2 years, they haven't made any E2s because they've been so backed up with their dealers, and they just didn't make it. They couldn't make enough,
Right.
So they're 2, 3 years, 4 years, even guitars backed up that dealers had ordered as far as E2s.
Right.
I mean, it's like Gibson. You have Epiphone. A lot more Epiphones are selling than a Gibson guitar. That's for sure.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I mean, ESP is alive and well. The Japanese Custom Shop is some of the most amazing guitars,
Right.
ever made, as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
Well,
so
like,
it's you got Jay the Messenger's book back there.
what's that?
I think I see the James Hetfield Messenger book behind you, right? Is that what?
Oh
that is?
yeah.
I got it right next to me. So, I mean, like he talks about that in that book, about why, like he wasn't happy with Gibson for a couple of reasons and everything.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
F this. I'm going back to ESP. They're going to do whatever I want. And like when you look through that book, like some of his ideas are absolutely crazy. But who the hell is going to tell a guy like that, no, I'm not going to do that for you?
Right.
Yeah, they will, and they will still to this day. So the ESP Japanese Custom Shop, they will make you whatever the hell you want. I mean, you can draw up the body, and they'll do it for you.
Yep.
And and their custom shop is only to this day, it's like 6 guys, something like that, that are in there. And I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the ESP Expedition series. These guitars are like a work of art, and they only make they'll put them out once a year. They'll have them showcased at NAMM. I mean, those guitars go for big money, but I mean, they're not only the playability and the tone out of these things, but just absolute works of art. It's just ridiculous. I mean, especially in Japan, the guitars that they make there, it's just ridiculous. And I think that's one of the competitions that with the USA guitars. It used to be USA is like the ultimate guitar, but I think over the years, particularly in Japan, they really figured it out, and they just have a little bit more integrity, I think, in what they're doing. And obviously I want to see USA make amazing guitars again, but maybe that'll start to happen again. But
we talked last week about the tariffs. I wonder what that's going to do, if that will help with the Japanese guitars coming into the country, because like we talked earlier, it's expensive to get shit here. Bare knuckles, we talked about those earlier in the show. Vega trim last week, we talked about that. I mean, they're both great products, but to get them in here, you pay your ass off because there's those import fees and the tariffs and all that none of us know about.
Well, that's the same
So you become a dealer.
Well, it's the same thing in Europe. Like friends of mine that are in European bands, and they would always talk about, it's just so expensive to get an American guitar. Like it's like the holy grail for them to get like, a Gibson, or a USA Fender or something like that. So even like one of my favorite bands, Merciful Fate, Michael Denner would talk about, and Hank Sherman, like they played quartz guitars back in the, like the first two Merciful Fate records, or first three were recorded with quartz guitars because they couldn't afford to get, a Gibson V or something like that, in those days, because it was just so ridiculously expensive. So they had to play the cheaper end guitars. But still, even to this day in Europe, like for those guys to get, an American guitar, it's easier for them to get like a Japanese guitar versus to,
I think you're spot on about the integrity thing, man. Like, I just think it's an American culture thing. They're going to try to squeeze every bit of profit out of it that they can, and it's not necessarily the guys that are building it either. It's the leadership that's inventing the.
I agree on that. Yeah.
And then the other thing, like these tariffs, even if costs go down, they're going to raise their prices, and they're not going to bring their prices back down. I don't think, that doesn't even, it's not, doesn't have to be guitars, So, and we ultimately suffer for that. So
yeah. Well, and Survivor Metal Man, E2 Arrow for the win. Just killer looking guitars. Yeah, they're great playing guitars too.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I played an compared E2s to custom shops too, and is as good. It's just the custom shop is just you're paying extra to, get with whatever added bonus you want to the guitar. But the E2s are just ridiculous. I'm sure it's the same with like a Gibson standard USA made guitar compared to a custom shop.
I have E2 7-string right over here, actually. In their Les Paul platform, the Eclipse.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was watching somebody earlier, and he seems like I watch people too much. I really don't. I'm always doing something and watching or listening while I'm in here. But he was talking about, and he's a performing a guitarist with several different bands. He's like a hired gun. And he has internet, he's on TikTok and YouTube and all that. But he kind of had an interesting breakdown. It's like, all right, well, if you're a beginner, what price range should you be looking at? He was like, 150 to 300, probably in the 300 area, because if you get anything less, you're going to hate it. It's going to have super high action, like we talked about, because we all had that guitar that we didn't want to play. And then he went into the next, like if you're beginning to be, a halfway decent guitar player, maybe you want to go like 500 to 1,000. And then if you're performing, you want to go like 750 to 3,000. And, I know there's some overlap there. And then he said, if you go over $3,000, and he's probably dead on the money, you're not going for playability anymore. You are now going for woods. You're going for woods and bling and things like that. It's not going to play any better than those other ones. And he was saying like the touring professional $3,000, on the upper side. And then he went, typical. Like, if you're a lawyer, spend $15,000 and put it next to your really nice furniture.
Yeah.
Well, and to get back to the beginning, the lower end cheap guitars, like if you're a beginner, you couldn't get as good at, like when I started playing guitar in 1985 or whatever it was when I started, you couldn't get a cheap guitar that was well made. I mean, it was horrible, and nowadays you can get a quality, really well played instrument for a couple $100, and back you couldn't, because like you spoke about earlier in the interview, Rich, was about the action this high, and I was that guy. I had action this. I mean, it made me a better player because I bled to death, playing, just putting all that my strength into building up, pressing on the strings all the time and bleeding to death. But yeah, you just couldn't get quality, a decent playing guitar like you can nowadays. They make really good guitars. Like they figured it out, I think, over time. How to make a really well played instrument at a lower price point.
Yeah, I also wonder if there must be like more people playing guitar now too, if they're getting to that point too, or I don't know. I had always heard like we hear rock is dead and the guitar is dead. I don't know if I believe that though. I
think it's more alive and well more than ever now. I mean, especially even it's not just guys. There's a lot more young girls and women playing guitar that are decent players out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you hit it. I think you see more girls and females playing guitar now. And that's probably, I mean, call it what you will. That's probably the Taylor Swift effect, seriously, she's done a lot for the guitar industry with girls. And, well, and that we've talked about when my daughter first started playing, there were guitars, when she started, like the Daisy Rocks, they were specifically built for, smaller hands and things like that. And that we didn't have those. I mean, I stopped playing as a kid because when we got the bar chords and I had 1 inch, high action, I was like, I'm done with this shit. I'm going to shoot hoops or something. Yeah, and so speaking of the old Sears Special, that's what I'm talking about. I had it's actually in the closet right there, Sears Acoustic Electric. And it was one, that's back in the 70s, man. Like nobody had any money back then. And it was usually, and somebody else said this too, it was like my dad knew somebody that had a guitar and they got it for $50 and brought it home. That's exactly what I had. I guess it's a Hondo. It doesn't even have a damn name on it. I can't tell you what it is for electric. And then the other one was a Sears and Roebuck Acoustic Electric, like Dreadnought style. And it was hateful. But you know what? So there's a lot of people buying guitars. There's a lot of people starting guitars. And I think there's a lot of people that don't stick with it because I'll say it again, and I say it a lot, because the guitar industry is shitty and they do shitty work. For the most part. You buy a guitar, you have to immediately do a setup on it. You're immediately dumping money in it. You said it the other day, like that Reverend's a pretty decent guitar that I just got, but I could have gotten a hell of a lot better guitar if it was LTD for the same money. To send that guitar out like that, that's shameful. And that's why people quit. I had a young person from School of Rock call yesterday or the day before, and his frets are just eating him up, and they don't understand that they can be fixed, but you shouldn't get a guitar like that. Some of his is probably from being too dry, but
back in the day, it's broken. It's broken. You didn't realize.
Well, and how many people do you see nowadays? I've probably benefited from this. Like somebody will, has a bad pot in it. It's like the volume is broken on it. Got to sell it. It's like, okay. I'm selling it cheaper because the volume knob's broken. It just needs a new, $5 pot.
Right.
But all right, we're gonna wind down. If anybody has any more questions, the last thing that I have is our new branding. People have probably seen it on our social media, our new little logo up to the right side. And you know what? I don't think we've ever, like, there is a story. We probably should have told this. We'll tell it again at the beginning because maybe people aren't hanging out this late, and if they're watching it, and especially if you're listening to it on Spotify. So there's kind of like a story behind, like when we started this, it's kind of like two worlds colliding. You have kind of the rock and roll world and the fire world. Because I came out of 37 years in the fire department. I play guitar. I opened up a guitar shop, and then Alex is a rock star. So we're trying to figure out, like, come on, man. So it's we were trying to figure out like, well, we want to do this. It kind of started as a joke at first, and then we wanted to do a podcast. And it's like, well, what do we call it? How do you incorporate the two worlds? So a gear locker is kind of something in the fire department where you put your fire gear. And it's that red thing. That's a fire gear locker. So it's kind of like pulling the guitar is us with the guitars, and then gear locker is the fire department. So it's kind of like a meshing of the two. So we made we did our branding. We made a decent emblem that got us by. But then we went with he's actually a fireman that did that. I think he's up in New York, and he does graphics as a living, and made that graphic. So we wanted to do a little more professional branding on it. So you'll notice that on our social media and on the top right hand side of the screen. So yeah, that's our new news for the week. So kind of moving on. Trying to be more professional. We've made it over a year now, and this is our 20th live show, and we have more recorded shows, and we've done some shorts. So yeah. So anybody, Rich, you have anything else for us? Alex, you have anything else? We've gone an hour and 45 minutes again.
Yeah, I mean, I just thank you guys so much for just taking the time to talk with me. I'm honored because I see some of the guests that you guys have, and then you're still willing to talk to me. So,
that's it. It's awesome. We all we have the one common thing,
It's one thing about the musicians and the music scene is it's really a brotherhood, one thing I love about going out on the road, and say if it's just like a band I haven't toured with, just meeting other like-minded players and just nerding out about music, and talking nerd stuff about gear and things like that too, and so it's always nice to meet a new person like yourself. And I really enjoyed talking with you tonight, Rich. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate you being on. And the thing, like, there's different, everybody has a different motivation in doing this. I like working on them. I like playing them. But I talk to a lot of people, as you might imagine, that are in and out of the shop here. And there's a lot of people that just want to play out. They want to do gigs and play covers. But there's a lot of people that are interested in what you were talking about tonight, writing, recording, having something on Spotify and things like that. And that's why we say it every week. We want to have everybody on here. We want to have, discussion groups and things like that to help people, because everybody brings something to the table.
Yeah. And my comments to you guys, I mean, like, this was a really good discussion. I've had some really good interviewers and everything. This was the best dialogue that I've had in anything. And you did a great job, and I just loved all the things we talked about. Never met you guys before, but we
here, man,
really well. So thank you so much.
And let me throw the last couple up here, and then we'll shut her on down. Thanks for the podcast. First time tuning in. Well, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday. We'll have another show next Thursday. So, and like we say, sometimes it's just going to be Alex and I. Sometimes we're going to have a guest. Always a great show. Keep up. We appreciate you joining us every week, and it's always great. Like I said, we were kind of a little hesitant at first about doing the lives, and now we like them. We like kind of interacting, and makes you feel more comfortable. But everybody liking this down here, like and subscribe. And we appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next week. Oh, it's over there. I have mine backwards. All right. Wherever the subscribe button is, hit it. Everybody have a good week. Take care.